Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday to all of you, to all of our community, and of course, many thanks for joining this live stream news summary from Moscow program. It is 6th of December, of course, 12 o'clock by Moscow time, middle of the day, basically. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments that Russian media is focused on. And hopefully, you will find this update informative and useful. And in that case, please like the video, leave some commentary if you can share with your friends. And also, in addition to that, if I may, I will drop now a link in the YouTube chat, link to my channel on Rumble. As you know, I'm streaming on both my channels simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble. And if you can, please watch my videos, my video on Rumble. This might be helpful to further develop the channel on the Rumble platform. I did drop the link. Hopefully, it's visible for you. And well, it's a Saturday, isn't it? So we can have this live stream in little more casual style than usually. And let's see if there will be any super chat or some questions through some support platforms. I will of course answer to those questions. I will react on it, and maybe I'll stay after the live stream for a little while. Also, Nidish Kumar recommended, member of our community, recommended early on to do two fundraising, so-called fundraising streams in the first half of the month. He thinks this is more practical, so we can check it. Check this theory. By the way, let's call this streamer also fundraising, as we usually have on Sundays. Hopefully, it will work out. Hopefully, it will work out. So, if you would like to donate to this project, or if you would like to help me to maintain these channels, you can donate, of course, through several means, through PayPal platform and Boosty platforms. Links are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And during the stream, you can subscribe, dear friends, of course, to my Patreon page there, or page that I have on Boosty. That will be also a great support. And on Rumble, there is a super chat feature or rant feature that you can use for donation. And also, you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble, or even gift a premium subscription to others. That counts as a donation basically to the project. Also, all the links you can find on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And link to my Rumble I already dropped in the chat on YouTube. Okay, that's been said, dear friends. Let's go through some news now, and I will start with this report from RIA Novosti, which is based on Russian Defense Ministry's latest update on the work of air defense systems on duty. And well, according to this report, air defense systems last night, air defense forces last night intercepted 116 drones that was launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky to strike deep into Russian territory. Obviously, they did it with assistance of NATO because, as you know, drones themselves are in most of the cases, and also flight path for these drones targeting data, navigation, satellite intelligence is provided by NATO member states, first of all by US and UK. So it is a NATO strikes basically on Russia, and they are using this their proxy key regime for plausible deniability. But we all understand this is NATO strikes on Russia, and I guess very many people worldwide are wondering when will Russia finally begin striking back, not just on the Kiev-controlled territory or on Kiev regime, but on true enemies, or on bigger enemies than Kiev regime is, right? Which is Kiev regime's and NATO backers. Maybe this will never happen, or maybe it will happen. We just don't know. But this is NATO strikes. This is not the Ukrainian strikes alone. I can give you some specifics if you want, dear friends, on these last night strikes. 29 drones were intercepted over the Ryazan region, 27 drones over the Voronezh region, 23 over the Bryansk, 21 over the Belgorod. Also, in addition to that, 6 drones were intercepted in the Tver region, 3 each in Kursk and Lipetsk regions, 2 in Tambov region, 1 each in Tula and Oryol regions. And this is not all when it comes to these NATO strikes on Russia. Let's call it as it is. RIA Novosti also this morning reported that early today, air defense systems on duty intercepted several drones in the Leningrad region also. At this point, there are no reports about casualties as a result of these strikes or more or less significant damage. If any updates on that, of course, I will share additional information in next term updates. And when it comes to Leningrad region, dear friends, I think many of you will agree with me if I will entertain idea or opinion that it is highly likely that all these strikes on the Leningrad region and on northern region of the Russia basically are conducted from NATO countries, neighboring NATO countries, that is Baltic Chihuahua quasi-states, first of all Estonia, but could be Lithuania and Latvia also, and Finland, by the way. Finland also can be and may be already being used by globalists, by Russian enemies, Western ruling class, to strike on Russian territory. And you might ask her, if so, why Moscow is not saying nothing about this? Well, if Moscow or when Moscow will say that these attacks came from NATO countries, then have to be retaliation, right? And retaliation not on the Kiev-controlled territory, but on particular NATO member state, territory of which was used for strikes on Russia. And I guess Moscow is just trying to avoid this direct confrontation with a NATO member or with NATO members. Although this is obviously speculation on my part, but I refuse to believe that the Kiev regime is launching drones from its territory that it controls, and those drones are reaching Leningrad region without being intercepted on the way. I just refuse to believe in that. It's just not possible. It's just simply not possible. Period. It is what it is, man. Leningrad region is just too far. Leningrad region, St. Petersburg is just too far to be targeted from Kiev-controlled territory. Personal opinion, yet again, you might agree with me or not, but that's what I think on this matter. RIA Novosti is also reporting about Russian retaliatory strikes on Kiev-controlled territory, on military, logistical, energy infrastructure of the hostile side. And many Russian media outlets are sharing some information, not really that much details about last night's strikes, but some information is available, at least about directions of these strikes. So let me share with you this information. Powerful explosions rocked Ukraine overnight, striking military and energy facilities. Local media reported on the aftermath of the attacks in Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk, Chernigov, Lutsk, and Vinnytsia. Explosions were also recorded in Poltava, Lvov, and Kirovograd regions. Social media reported landings, arrivals basically, of Russian missiles in area of Starokonstantinov military airfield in Khmelnytsky region. So as you can see, relatively large-scale retaliatory strike was conducted by Russian armed forces. Also, I saw reports early on that during this last night attack on hostile military and logistical energy infrastructure, Russian armed forces used not just drones, but also cruise missiles, and even hypersonic missiles were deployed. Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, to be more precise. And reports are that exactly Kinzhal missiles struck Starokonstantinov airfield. And you can imagine, dear friends, scale and the quality of Soviet-era builder airfields that Starokonstantinov airfield is actually, airbase, that already dozens of strikes was conducted on this airfield by Russian armed forces with all sorts of weapons, and still this airfield is used by enemy by hostile side for operations. It is difficult. So during the Soviet era, by the way, many military bases and especially military-industrial complex was built in a way that you can only take them out completely or at least significantly just by dropping nuke. Without nuke, with the conventional weapon systems, it is extremely difficult to take the Soviet era builder infrastructure completely out. Let's continue with some more other news. And RIA Novosti is reporting, and I did mention towards the end of yesterday's live stream about this progress of the Russian armed forces on line of contact. So Russian troops liberated their Bezimyan settlement in a DPR. This settlement is located on the northern side of Konstantinovka, northern western side of Konstantinovka, in a relatively new Russian breakthrough area. I predicted possibility of such a development, and that's exactly what is happening. And seems like Russian armed forces are tasked, maybe tasked to basically cut their main supply and support line between Kiev regime's garnison in Konstantinovka city or town and another town in area. Let me just give you the name. And Drushkovka, by the way, yes, Drushkovka. This is Konstantinovka settlement that, let me bring it closer. So this is Konstantinovka town, relatively large town, by the way, that Russian troops are now advancing in and towards which, and this is Drushkovka town that become a main or major logistical hub at this point. And this is the settlement Bezimyan that Russian troops liberated, basically almost in between of to these cities, Konstantinovka and Drushkovka. And I guess Russian forces will continue progress further westwards, right, to cut this main supply and support line between their two cities. And eventually, I believe left bank of Krivoy Tarets River that cuts this city in half will be liberated first, and then right bank of this city. Russian troops already are operating on the left bank of this river inside the southern part of Konstantinovka. So that's what is going on there. I can, because I opened the map, I can go through some other details. There are no major developments in the Kherson direction, no major developments at this particular point in Zaporozhye sector. Seems like Russian troops are basically finalizing clearing operation in settlements that are being liberated in the past several days. And there was a massive advances of the Russian forces, of course, in Zaporozhye region. There are three major strongholds in this area, on the most that are under Russian pressure right now. On the most western side, it's a Stepnogorsk settlement, and this map is not really updated, not really up to date. According to many reports from many military experts, Russian troops completely encircled Kiev regime's garnison in Stepnogorsk and conducting offensive operations even from northern side. So if Russian troops are conducting offensive from northern side, the city must be encircled, right? I guess it will not take too long before Stepnogorsk will be completely liberated. And after that, dear friends, distance between forward units of the Russian forces and Zaporozhye city itself will be around 15 kilometers, about 15 kilometers. Drones, maybe a little more, and their FPV drones already will be able to basically target enemy militaries in Zaporozhye city itself. After Stepnogorsk, operational space will be opened for the Russian militaries. In the middle of Zaporozhye direction is, of course, Orekhov city that you see right now on your screen, and Russian troops are closing in on Orekhov from two directions, from eastern side, from Malaya Takmachka and from southern side from Novodanilovka settlements. But of course, first Novodanilovka have to be completely liberated. Process is underway, and I think Russian troops might focus on Novoandreevka settlement on the southern western side of Orekhov, liberate this settlement, and only then launch a major offensive towards Kiev regime's garnison in Orekhov city. That seems logical to me. And when it comes to most western side, major stronghold of Zaporozhye sector, major stronghold is of course Gulyai Pole, and already battles are taking place inside the city. Russian troops are approaching from three directions: from northern side, from eastern side, and from southern side. And there seems like Kiev regime's troops, even though they deployed additional reinforcements in this area, are unable really to stabilize the line of contact. There was a massive breakthrough of Russian troops in this direction. When it comes to Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, well, no major changes in this area. Pokrovsk is under full Russian control. And when it comes to Mirnograd, northern part of Mirnograd is still controlled by mainly still controlled by encircled troops of Kiev regime and some NATO mercenaries. And on daily basis, Russian troops are conducting negotiations with their encircled enemy troops to lay down arms and surrender. In some cases, negotiations are successful. In other cases, negotiations are breaking down. And when that happens, Air Force is called in, and then FAB 1500 strike, FAB 3000 strike, and their unit that refused to lay down arms and surrender is obliterated. That's their decision, right? They've been offered the opportunity to lay down arms and surrender. They refuse, and then, well, then they are neutralized. According to reports, up to 2,000 troops of Kiev regime might be trapped in Mirnograd. So therefore, it will take quite some time, I guess, before Russian troops will establish full control over the northern part or main body of the Mirnograd, because obviously Russian militaries will try to minimize casualty on their side. And there is no hurry also. There is no need to rush the developments. Eventually, step by step, but this Kiev regime's encircled garrison in Mirnograd will be neutralized. Some of them will surrender, others will just find their last day in the ruins of that town. When it comes to other sectors of the front line, well, in Volchansk area, main hotspot is still Liman village and Vilcha villages. Russian troops are advancing or conducting clearing operation in both of these villages. There was a report about significant progress of the Russian armed forces on the southeastern side of Kupiansk. And reports are that significant number of enemy forces were neutralized, encircled basically. Enemy forces were neutralized in this area. In Kupiansk city itself is under full Russian control, although time to time some videos are popping up on internet in which you can see some small units of the Kiev regime still moving inside the city. Hard to tell when these videos were made. Could be old videos, by the way, but same time we should not be surprised really if some small units of the Kiev regime are stuck somewhere inside the city in some building, in underground some facility, and looking the ways to run away. But it's difficult. It's going to be very difficult for them to succeed in that. Best they can do is to contact Russian side and organize surrender. And when it comes to northern part of, and of course Kupiansk and Volchansk is a Kharkov region, and when it comes to northern part of DPR, major hotspot is of course Seversk Liman direction, where initiative is in Russian hands. And well, I guess it is a possibility that before end of this year, before end of December, one of these cities will be under full Russian control. Seversk definitely going to be most likely fully encircled before end of this month. I was little bit optimistic earlier. I was thinking that there is a probability that both cities will be liberated before end of this year. But after all, I'm not military expert, and I'm always highlighting that, isn't it? That we should take my predictions on military developments with a pinch of salt, because yet again, you have to be military expert to know, to read the situation on a professional level. I'm a journalist, by the way. I know about military no any more than any of you that are also not militarists. So I was wrong, I guess, when I was thinking that both cities will be liberated before end of this year. But there is a probability still left that Seversk, let's say, Seversk may be either in encirclement or liberated. We will find out. We will find out. There is no rush. Yet again, there is no rush on Russian side. No need to hurry developments. Russian military should, of course, take whatever time is necessary while advancing to minimize casualties among our troops, among Russian troops, right? That's a right approach, and the Russian troops are successful all along the front line. Initiative is in Russian hands, and there is not even theoretical chance that Kiev regime's forces, NATO, will regain initiative ever on any directions. Let's continue with some other news. And yesterday, towards the end of the live stream, I also managed to, mention this report. I just checked. Remember, I just checked some media outlets for potential breaking news before I end the live stream, and I pay attention to this report that Russian armed forces destroyed more than 60,000 Ukrainian or NATO drones in 2025 alone, which is quite big, by the way. So Russian troops destroyed more than 60,000 Ukrainian, I will add NATO drones in 2025, exceeding the number destroyed in previous years of the joint military or special military operation, according to TASS news agency's calculations. According to daily reports from the Russian Ministry of Defense, more than 100,000 drones have been destroyed by Russian military since the start of special military operation, including more than 60,000 in 2025. In 2024, number was 28,000, almost 29. In a year before, in 2023, it was 7,500, and in 2022, it was 2,700. There you can see yourself this tremendous increase in a drone warfare that basically will influence militaries all over the world, and I guess forever. It is now drone warfare that is dictating the terms on the battlefield. Obviously, major change will be required in strategies and the tactics of all militaries worldwide, because this kind of war has never been seen before, right? When tens of thousands of drones are operating on a line of contact. I think this is interesting news, interesting statistics there. Let's continue with some other news. And well, I did bookmark this report for you from Marty, that U.S. puts normalizing relations with Russia among the core interests. Well, deception continues, by the way. Deception operation on part of Western ruling class continues. They are desperate, and they are desperately trying to somehow lure Russia into this lie, this imaginary world in which US is actually for the escalation, which is total nonsense, right? Nobody in US leadership can be ever trusted, at least not before US citizens will actually regain control over their own country, right? And I'm not sure that is ever happening. And that's why even though this report about this new security strategy, national security strategy of US is making headlines worldwide, I think this is nothing serious. This is just another attempt of Western ruling class to fool Russia. That's all, right? We should not take this seriously. We should treat Trump and his administration as an enemy, as we should do the same in regards to European so-called leadership, right? US has placed the restoration of normal ties with Russia and the rapid end to the Ukraine conflict at the center of its newly released national security strategy, presenting both aims as among America's core interests. Really? How interesting. I guess to reach. I mean, that's why I'm saying, by the way, cheap. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap, man. Policies, actual policies, that's what matters. And while releasing this so-called national security strategy, US leadership actually confirmed once again that I am correct, man. I am correct. Their policies are absolutely hostile towards Russia. In absolute terms, by the way, they are still providing Kiev regime with their intelligence, with their weapons, right? They are still engaged in this proxy war against Russia. They're directly engaged in this proxy war against Russia. That's the policy of the US, right? That's what they actually do. But when it comes to talk, or they love to talk about peace and they love to talk about restoring relationships and stuff like that, pretending to be something that they are not. Clearly, isn't it? Clearly. And that's why I'm saying never ever anyone in this world, especially outside of the collective West, should trust a single word that comes out from anybody from the leadership of either US or any other Western country. It's just that simple, man, right? They are all bunch of liars and bunch of nobodies, period. But if you're interested what other nonsense they did right in this so-called national security strategy, let me go through this report from RT. So 33-page report outlining their President Donald Trump's foreign policy vision for the 33-page report outlining their President Donald Trump's foreign policy vision was released by the White House on Friday. It is a core interest of the United States to negotiate an expeditious cessation of hostilities in Ukraine. Well, they love to have a break, by the way. That's for sure. They love to have a break there because they are losing. Collective West is losing this fight against Russia. Fight that they started, by the way. Right? They are losing this proxy war and they love to have a break. 100%. That paper states. In order to stabilize European economies, prevent unintended escalation or expansion of the war, and reestablish strategic stability with Russia. No thanks. No thanks. We don't need no strategic partnership with you, Collective West. No thanks. You cannot be trusted ever, right? And unwillingly, Western ruling class actually give Russia unique opportunity to finally cut the ties with the West and move away from the West, right? That Russia was heavily dependent, by the way. I remind you that EU was our #1 trading partner for Russia, #1. So you can imagine level of dependence of Russian economy on EU. And this is no longer case. Today, China is #1 trade partner, and other countries are catching up. India is catching up, others also, right? And Collective West is no longer plays key role for Russian economy, which is achievement actually, right? Which is achievement and definitely unwanted consequence of these hostile activities of their Western elites. Let's continue with some other news. Yet again, dear friends, I have nothing against the West. I will have nothing, let me say this way, I will have nothing against the West if Western countries were controlled by political class that actually cares about their own citizens, their national interests, because In that case, those elites in the West would be adequate people, right? And with adequate people, with normal people, we can actually cooperate, we can talk, we can reach some agreements, right? We can move forward together. But Western countries never going to be controlled by good people, man. Western countries, and let's not kid ourselves, right? Western countries never going to be controlled by elites or by political class that will actually respect Western societies and will base their policies on the best interests of the Western societies. This is not happening, by the way. I know Western public would want to be optimistic, and they believe that one day they will regain control over their own countries. But come on, man, come on, this is not happening, you know. And I would love to be wrong, but I mean, give me one indicator that actually creates good enough ground to believe that Western society, somewhere either in US or in Canada or in UK or in France or Germany or elsewhere, man, in the West. Give me one indicator that tell us for sure that and give us hopes that, well, local societies are about to regain control over their countries. There is no such indicators, by the way. You might say, well, you see what is happening in Germany with AfD, right? Alternative for Germany party. Look what is happening in UK with the Farage's Reform UK party. Look what is happening in France with the Le Pen and her party. Dear friends, are you sure these parties and these people that are in charge of these parties are truly your allies and not the assets of the very same globalists that rule the Western world in general? Are you really sure about it? How you can be sure of that? Just because they know how to speak in a way that you will find it interesting? They are experts, by the way, of deception. These globalists, this Western ruling class, these generational clans, by the way, that rule the Western world for centuries, they are experts of deception. And you think they will struggle to fool Western societies time and time again? Come on, man. Let's be real. Only way societies in the West can regain control over their countries is a revolution, actual, true revolution. They have to destroy these corrupt systems that they have. They have to neutralize these so-called elites that they have, and they have to build new countries with the new systems and the new elites from the scratch. That's the only way, man. Anything else is a lie. Anything else and everything else is a lie. Period. You cannot change this system from within because system will not allow you to become part of it, to get in. But if you are inside the system, then that means you're being corrupt. You're being corrupted one way or another, but you're being compromised. That's how those systems work, man. It is what it is. Anyways, let's continue. This paper that White House released notes that the Ukraine conflict has left European relations with Russia deeply attented. I don't know what that word means. Destabilizing the region deeply. This conflict in Ukraine, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, basically destroyed Europe's relationships with Russia, which is true. Report criticizes European leaders for unrealistic expectations regarding the outcome of the conflict, arguing that the large European majority wants peace, yet that desire is not translated into a policy. Well, I'm not sure about large European majority because majority in Europe has been brainwashed and is as Russophobic as it can get, by the way. Majority in Europe, let's not lie to ourselves, majority in Europe are Russophobes. They've been brainwashed, by the way. They've been indoctrinated in Russia hate. And so majority is actually on the very same page as their elites are. You know, maybe they don't support Merz, for example, in Germany, but you're gonna tell me that majority of Germans not Russia haters? I mean, really? You're gonna tell me that, let's say, even if Keir Starmer is tremendously unpopular in the UK, British citizens, majority of them are not Russia haters? Suddenly? I mean, really? Or is situation different in France, in Spain, elsewhere in the West, or in the US, by the way? No. You conduct studies in any of these countries, by the way, in the West, Russia will come as number one among countries or among societies that Western majority of the Western public finds as a enemy, or towards which Western public will demonstrate negative attitude or hate or whatever in that scale, right? So therefore, I have to disagree with this part of this paper also, that majority is for peace, and these elites there are just too crazy. No, man, those elites did manage to indoctrinate in Russia hates, let's say, majority. Otherwise, they would not be able to maintain these policies for this long. When you last time see like million people marching on the streets of Berlin? I mean, really, when you last time see million people marching on the streets of Berlin demanding end of hostility towards Russia? It never happened. Did you see anything like that in London, in Paris, in Madrid, in Lisbon? No, you did not. In Rome, in Washington, or Ottawa? No, man. No. And you will not see that kind of stuff, right? So majority is on the very same page of Russia hate with their own elites, even if they don't like those people that represent those elites, Merz, Macron, Starmer, and all their other garbage, right? Report criticizes European leaders for unrealistic expectations regarding the outcome of their conflict, arguing that a larger European majority wants peace, yet that desire is not translated into policy. Yet again, this is not true. Majority is on the same page with elites on Russia hate. America, it says, this paper says, is ready for significant diplomatic engagements to help Europe correct its current trajectory, reestablish stability, and mitigate the risk of conflict between Russia and European states. Also, nonsensical phrase, absolutely. US is a leading force still in this proxy war against Russia. So what Washington is talking about? What White House wants to tell us, man? Do they think we really are that stupid that we don't freaking understand that talk is cheap and policies are the stuff that actually matters? Probably they think we really are that stupid. We don't pay attention to policies, not only to this cheap talk. It's insane, man. In contrast with the US national strategy during the Trump's first term, which emphasized the competition with Russia and China, the new strategy shifts their focus to their Western hemisphere and to protecting their homeland, the borders, and the regional interests. It calls for resources to be redirected from distant threats to challenges closer to home, and urges NATO and European states to shoulder primary responsibility for their own defense. And well, this is interesting point there, because I have said many times before that obviously US ruling class sees China as a main competitor, sees China as a main threat, and they want to use China also as a driving force inside the US to basically justify all the policies that they will come up with, right? Including hostile policies towards their South Latin American countries, right? That they count to be their backyard. Also, this way they will, while weaponizing China, they will justify these $1 trillion+ spendings on the military, obviously, right? And everything else. They constantly need a threat, right? And they are more focused now on China because they find it more and more difficult to sell Russia as a threat, man. So China will work better in this regard, and well, they just cannot. They just have no resources to be active on all fronts. They have to focus on one, right? And therefore, yes, there is there can be some motivation for Washington to somehow, at least in a relatively near future, actually get out from the conflict with Russia and focus more on China. And same time, this language, by the way, that well, U.S. wants to normalize relationships with Russia. You know what is going on, isn't it? American ruling class dreams about destroying relationships between Russia and China. They are dreaming about it, right? They push these two countries closer together, and the level of cooperation between Russia and China is absolutely unprecedented right now, and continues to further develop, right? And this scares the hell out of Western ruling class in general and the American ruling class in this particular case. So they will definitely try to come up with all sorts of deception operations, with all sorts of fake promises. They will do anything and everything they can to somehow create a tension between Moscow and Beijing, and hopefully they will fail. Hopefully they will fail, but if anyone ever in the Russian political class says that Russia has to be ally of either US or European countries, that someone should be checked straight away by counterintelligence service, because something is wrong there. Until Western societies, if ever, will manage to actually reclaim control over these countries or their own countries, until that point, which is not going to happen, I think. But nevertheless, until that point, if anyone in Russian political class or in public field says that Moscow has to ally itself with Washington or with European capitals, that someone should be checked very strictly by counterintelligence service, because something is wrong there. Such a proposal goes against the best interests of Russia, against Russia's national security interests, and cannot be allowed to gain momentum or the ground here. Russia trusted the West. Russia even come up with initiative to join NATO. There was such a situation, isn't it, dear friends? Yeltsin and then Putin actually talked about Russia joining NATO with their Western leadership, with US leadership, for example, and Western elites did everything to keep Russia out, keep Russia away, to maintain hostile policies towards Russia, and then to keep designating Russia as an enemy. So that's it, man. You cannot go in the same river twice, as one say goes, right? Anyways, let's continue. The document also calls for end to a NATO expansion. Yet another lie. Where are you going to expand, man? You're going to bring into NATO what? Which country? At least towards the Russia, you already engulfed almost everyone, right? You try to bring in Ukraine, Georgia. You might still try. There is another republics there in Southern Caucasus, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and you might try to go there too. Okay, West already destroyed the relationships between Armenia and Azerbaijan and Russia, right? So they well might bring those republics into NATO too. They might try, actually. In any case, if anyone believes this statement that, well, NATO's expansion should stop, I have Mount Everest to sell to that someone, to that genius. But anyways, that's what they're saying in that toilet paper that called what they call it, national security strategy of the US. This freaking toilet paper. So the document also calls for an end of NATO expansion, demand that Russia has repeatedly made, calling it a root cause of the Ukraine's conflict with Moscow, views as Western's proxy war. Overall, the new strategy signals a shift away from global interventionism towards the more transactional foreign policy, arguing that the US should act abroad only when its interests are directly at stake. And this is, by the way, RT's interpretation, right? And I said many times before, man, RT, I mean, I don't know, man. Quite often RT looks like a Western media outlet, in my personal opinion, by the way. Quite often I found RT to be somewhat similar to a Western media outlet that pushes some freaking nonsensical propaganda that is in interests of the Western world, Western elites, let's say this way. Not the world, because Western world and Western elites are two different stuff, right? So, I mean, something is wrong with their team, man, big time, big time. Not a single word of skepticism in this so-called article on RT. No, just take whatever White House says for like on face value, which is crazy, man, to do, right? Anyways, what else they are writing here? Overall, the strategy is the first of several major defense and foreign policy documents the Trump administration is expected to release. Okay, it's a garbage. It's just freaking garbage. Yet another attempt to fool Russia, to fool Russian leadership, and hopefully they're gonna fail, man. This points in this so-called strategy is total nonsense, lie. None of them can be taken seriously. Period. Right? But nevertheless, this paper does make headlines here in Russia, possibly in the Western world also, or in the rest of the world. And I guess it was worth to pay some little attention to it. RT is also reporting that US gives NATO, European members, self-defense deadlines. They should be ready to defend themselves by 2027, according to that new, according to Reuters news agency. And 2027 is an interesting date, isn't it, dear friends? I just said that all this BS talk in that new strategy of US is that BS talk, right? Bullshit. And we have this report now that actually at least indirectly confirms what I just said. Because, all the militarization plans, or most of the militarization plans that globalists come up with in Europe are oriented, at least for significant part of it, to be finalized for 2029, 2030. And that's why many experts are predicting that for that exact period, it is possible that European elites might launch even open war against Russia. They are in a hurry to prepare for this direct clash with Russia, right? And they are allocating hundreds of billions of euros, by the way, on militarization. But there is an obstacle on that path, because Western elites were hoping that they will manage to prolong this proxy war against Russia until that time frame. But now they understand that this is not happening. Now they understand that Kiev regime is about to collapse. Kiev regime's armed forces are about to collapse, and already in 2026, it might happen that already in 2026, Russian armed forces will reach borders of the Western Ukraine. At which point, special military operation will quite effectively end, right? Because I don't think there is any need or necessity to enter Western Ukraine, right? At that point, all these retreating neo-Nazi formations and all the fascists and all their criminals that are fighting on behalf of the regime, all of them will be concentrated in Western Ukraine. Something to keep in mind. And also, people in the Western Ukraine were indoctrinated in neo-Nazi fascist ideology in such a level, that I don't think it is humanly possible to denazify them with any programs, right? So you know what? Let the Western countries, or let the Western neighbors of this so-called Ukraine deal with those Nazis and the fascists. That will be concentrated in that Western Ukraine, and they will. They will have no choice but to deal with them, right? So, so therefore, because there is this understanding that is settling in to brains of these Western so-called elites, look what Washington is telling now to Europeans. You know what? You had the plans to get ready for a war for 2029, 2030, but you don't really have that time. Look what is going on the battlefield. This war might be, finished by end of 2026, and Russians might reach borders of the Western Ukraine. And at that point, you European elites are finished, right? So spend more and get ready for a war by 2027. That's what this report actually says. That's what Washington is demanding from the Europeans, to be ready for open war with Russia for 2027. That's my interpretation. That's my reading of the situation anyways, right? And we will see, most likely we will see in upcoming weeks and months, even more funds being allocated for this rapid militarization of the European countries. That's what is going on. And that's why I'm saying, by the way, Washington and the European capitals, London, Brussels, Berlin, Paris, they are playing one game. They are playing one game, but they have different roles. They split some roles between each other, right? Washington behaves in a certain way, London in another way, Berlin and Paris in another way, to fool basically everyone around, first of all, Moscow. And they're gonna fail, man, because we are reading their plans and we understand what they are up to, and they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose. That's it, man. And eventually, as I have said a million times, Western elites will have no option, either due to Russia deploying force, only language that they understand, or due to developments on the battlefield, but to contact Moscow and capitulate. Western elites gonna capitulate, by the way. That's it. Only question I have is time frame. But they're gonna capitulate. Mark my word. And before I continue, let me once again drop a link. I'm quite often forgetting to do so. Let me drop in chat on YouTube, dear friends, a link to my Rumble channel. And convenient, if you can, please click this link and watch this live stream on my Rumble channel. So I dropped the link, should be visible for YouTube community now in the chat. And so I mean, we call this stream, or I called it fundraising, isn't it? I called it a fundraising, and let me check. No donations, no nothing for now. Let me check Boosty too. If there was any donation through PayPal, Anna would send me a screenshot of that. So there was nothing there too. So you see me dish. I tried. Maybe things will change before end of this stream. I don't know, but I was thinking to no longer call these Sunday community chats fundraisings, because last Sunday, you see what happened. It was it did not went well, isn't it? In terms of fundraising, uh, it, it it was total failure. So, and embarrassing to me personally. I mean, when you call fundraising stream and you only get one donation, it was $10 donation, isn't it? If I remember correctly. Yeah, it's a failure and embarrassment. So therefore, I was thinking no longer to call this Sunday community chats a fundraising, and maybe I will not. We can do experiment tomorrow also, but you know, and so what I was saying. Anyways, I mean, in case there are some new members like right now on the stream that don't know how to donate, under this video in this freaking, I say so many times, this freaking deception. Now I'm saying this word automatically. So if anyone wants to donate under this video, in description box you can find the links to all their support platforms, right? So okay, now let's continue with some other news. I still have few news to share, dear friends. TASS news agency is reporting that EU and G7 countries want to completely ban seaborne shipment of the Russian oil. They are not happy with the price cap that they introduce. They are not happy with all the other sanctions, including sanctions on Russian energy majors. They want to completely cut or ban Russian seaborne shipments. Well, let's see how successful they're going to be in that. What they're going to do? Attack all the tankers that will carry Russian oil? I don't know. Let me give you some details. The European Union and the group of seven, so-called G7 countries, are considering replacing the price cap on Russian oil with a complete ban on Western companies' maritime transportation services. Reuters reported this, citing six sources. Who gives a damn about Western countries transporting anything, really? Right? According to the agency, such a ban could be announced as a part of the next EU sanctions package. They don't know. I'm telling you, dear friends, they are struggling with the new sanctions. They don't know what to sanction. And they are reimagining sanctions that they already have in place. And now they're gonna, in 2020 package of sanctions against Russia that EU gonna adopt, I guess soon, they're gonna ban Western companies to transport Russian oil when Western companies are not transporting Russian oil anyways. Correct? They don't. Maybe one, two companies are there to do some business with Russia still, but insignificant. But it sounds big, isn't it? It sounds big. Oh, EU and G7 wants to completely ban seaborne shipment of the Russian oil. Okay, try. Eventually, they might actually go ahead and start targeting in a large scale, on a global scale, tankers that are carrying Russian oil. But and we already seeing beginning of that process. One might argue in the Black Sea, for example, when tankers were targeted that just recently, that was carrying Russian oil, but it's still quite far away from being a global issue, right? Not yet. But obviously, if globalists, if Western ruling class will go ahead with such escalation, then probably there will be some retaliatory steps from Moscow also. We will find out. But yeah, it sounds scary. It sounds scary for sure. But in reality, what they gonna do, man? Nothing. Not much, really. Hungary, meanwhile, blocked EU's plans or European Commission's plans to sponsor Kiev with a 90 billion euro loan. This was reported by Politico, citing diplomatic sources. As you know, dear friends, Ursula von der Leyen, head of European Commission, just a couple of days ago, come up with this blackmail towards the EU member states that, well, either you are agree to steal frozen Russian assets, or all of you gonna take dozens of billions of euros loan to finance Kiev regime. And well, Hungary said, you know what? No thanks. We are against both scenarios, and we don't care what you think about it. That's what Hungary did, by the way. And I don't think Budapest, at least under current leadership, will ever agree to take any freaking loan for Kiev regime. Right? Orban will say, I mean, are you crazy? If I have to take a loan, then I'll do it for my people. Why would I care about these freaking psychos that you put in a charge in Kiev? Who are they, man? Why would I take a loan to enrich those criminals? So Hungary blocked this, and I guess some other countries probably are also not happy with these crazy ideas of Ursula Bursula washing machine, right? But well done to Budapest, by the way. They are trying hard to fight this fight, man, against globalists. They are trying hard, and even though eventually always they have to back down, almost always, by the way. I mean, EU already implemented 19 package of sanctions, isn't it? How? All these 19 packages have to be agreed by all countries, including Hungary and Slovakia, that are trying to position themselves as a sort of a neutral and this and that. And they are quite actively playing this game. At least they are currently not that keen to send weapons against Russia. Hungary, I believe, was not really engaged big time in a weapons transfer, while Slovakia was. Slovakia, under the previous government, was almost completely demilitarized, by the way. They sent to Kiev regime almost everything they have, from air force to ground forces. And nowadays, I'm not sure Slovakia has even a couple of dozens of tanks left, or even dozens of planes left. Probably they don't. I don't know. I don't even care, but they quite successfully demilitarized themselves during the previous government. And they are not alone, right? So, yes, eventually both Bratislava and Budapest are backing down before under the pressure of the globalists. But they are trying. They are trying to play, man, this game hard. Maybe this is true. Maybe it was Hungary that actually blocked this idea of Ursula to force EU member states to take these massive loans to finance Kiev regime, at least for now. TASS news agency is also reporting that US-Ukraine meeting in Florida failed to yield a major breakthroughs. You know, dear friends, in past several days, on Saturday, on 4th and 5th, or Saturday and 5th of December, there was negotiations in Florida, U.S. state Florida, between U.S. delegation led by Witkoff, I believe, and the regime's delegations led by Umerov. And I don't think anybody expected anything interesting from that meeting. It's just a part of this deception operation that Washington, London, Brussels, and all the others are engaged from the Western side, right? And well, they get together, made some photos, spoke about something, drink coffee, or maybe something stronger, right? And well, created this situation that, well, sides did not manage to agree on anything. I mean, seriously, Washington wants to pressure Kyiv to do something and they can't. I mean, is anybody really believes in this nonsense that Washington wants to reach some agreement with the Kyiv, with Zelensky and his criminal associates, and they cannot? I mean, how stupid someone gonna be to believe in this shit, man? I mean, literally, how stupid someone gonna be to believe that Zelensky or his freaking henchmen are in a position to say no to anything that comes from Washington or White House. If Washington wants, I mean, Trump literally can take a phone, called to Zelensky and said, you will go now on TV station and give an interview online, and you will stand on your knee during this live broadcast, and then I will send my representative, and you will kiss boots of my representative online during this live broadcast, right? And Zelensky will do this shit. That's how situation is, by the way. So no one should get mistaken with these fake reports that, well, US-Ukraine meeting in Florida failed to yield major breakthrough. What? Fuck it, man. This is crazy. This is just crazy, man. And unfortunately, they are pushing these false narratives still hard because I guess their think tanks are telling them, these Western decision makers, that it works, that many people, or maybe majority in the West, actually believes in this nonsense and crap. But Washington is failing to freaking deal with the Kiev. I mean, Zelensky is so tough, man. You know, and he's like a major political figure, crystal, and he's a crystal political figure, by the way, moral authority on a galactic scale that Washington cannot make him agree on anything. And some people are stupid enough to believe in this shit, man. Really. And they are discussing with serious freaking faces that, you see, there was a meeting in Florida between Witkoff and Umerov, and they talk about some serious stuff, and they could not reach agreement. You know, it's how sad, man. Fucking hell, man. Unbelievable. World stage is clearly becoming some sort of freak show, man. Probably you will agree with me. I mean, this world scale or world stage of public politics is turning into freak show, man. Bloody freak show. TASS news agency is also reporting about quite a strange, even I will say, an interesting statement of Ushakov, aide of the Russian president, who was asked about recent talks between US delegation led by Steve Witkoff and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the conversation went on, touched upon subject of Jared Kushner also, right? Because there are many questions, by the way. Who the hell is this figure, right? Why he is even a part of these talks? What kind of game is that, right? And this is legit questions because officially Kushner is not a representative of US. He has no position to represent US anywhere. As a statesman, right? He is a founder of some company. He is the son-in-law of Trump, but that does not give him some state status, right? To represent state in any talks. So many questions are rising left and right. People are wondering what the hell is going on. And the answer is simple, right? Well, Trump is engaged in this deception operation, and he's sending his son-in-law to demonstrate kind of that, I mean, he's serious, man. You know, you see, he move away. Rubio, they want to fool Moscow, by the way, right? So what he's doing now, what this game is about, is to create a picture that, well, you see, Rubio was moved away from Ukrainian story, from this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, and Rubio now directed towards Latin America. And you see, Trump is sending now his most trusted people to talk with the Russian president, to deal with this proxy war that US is waging together with other Western countries, and to demonstrate how serious they are, you know, and to actually fool Russian leadership. They are sending a son-in-law of Trump and Steve Witkoff, business partner of Trump, right? And well, I don't know, man. I don't know how to interpret statements of Yuri Ushakov. You share your opinion, what you think, but sometimes when I hear something like that, I'm beginning to fear that, well, they might fool Russian leadership, man. Again, they might mislead Russian leadership again, because they did it quite a few times already, and quite successfully, unfortunately, when Russian president admitted it, right? That he was lied to with Minsk 1, Minsk 2, and many other so-called agreements that West was pushing and West was signed up for. And now we have this statement of Ushakov that Jared Kushner, entrepreneur, investor, and founder of Affinity Partners, might draft the key provisions of a possible peace plan for the Ukrainian conflict. I mean, seriously? This is an explanation shared by Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov in a comment to Vegeterka journalist Pavel Zarubin. So that's what he said. Ushakov, aide of Russian president, that Jared Kushner, this entrepreneur or businessman, whatever he is, son-in-law of Trump, might draft the key provisions of a possible peace plan for the Ukrainian conflict. So I don't know. Maybe Ushakov is just playing these diplomatic games, right? With the American side. You start this game. Okay, I can play with you this game, but I'm not really taking anything seriously. I'm just not giving you opportunity to whine about I'm being rude, right? That I'm not even agreed to exchange opinions or something. Maybe this is, and hopefully this is just a diplomatic game on the Russian side, while we don't trust nobody. Because if Yuri Ushakov actually thinks that either Kushner or Steve Witkoff or Trump or anybody from the U.S. leadership, U.S. administration can be trusted, then we are in trouble, man. Because Ushakov is the aide of Russian president, and if he's telling Russian president that, well, we can trust these people, and if Russian president takes his opinion and begins trusting them, we are in trouble. We are in trouble then, and we have guaranteed then Minsk 3, Minsk 4, and all the other Minsks, right? But hopefully this is just a game, and we don't trust, our leadership don't trust nobody from either Trump's administration or from the collective West leadership in general. I can give you some quotes, by the way. In many ways, if some plan landing to a settlement in Ukraine or around on topic of Ukraine continues to be drawn up on paper, then Mr. Kushner will be the one doing most of the pen writing, the Kremlin spokesman said. In his opinion, Kushner joined at a very opportune time because Witkov's charm and friendliness were complemented by his systematic approach to work. Holy shit, man. Level of politeness, man. Maybe you will try jump out of socks also to demonstrate how polite you are towards this freaking Kushner or whoever this bitch is, right? And Steve Witkoff and all the other fucking garbage that is being sent from the Washington. Russian-American talks on December 2 lasted 5 hours. Ushakov himself had previously described them as useful and noted that dialogue with the US on Ukraine was moving forward. Okay, but okay. Yet again, I don't know. Maybe Ushakov is just messing around, right? Not giving an opportunity to American side to say, you know what, you see, Moscow is not even wants to be engaged in the talks. So therefore, to avoid this yet another wave of cry from the West about Moscow being against diplomacy, can be that Ushakov is just saying some stuff to demonstrate that, how polite we are, how open for diplomacy. I mean, Witkoff is Witkoff is a freaking genius, right? He's how he said, Witkoff has a charm and friendliness, and Gerard Kushner's systematic approach is just complemented all this story. Okay, by the way, I mean, you met this freaking Kushner just like, I don't know, once or twice maybe. What you know about him? And is not the case that Kushner is successful just because he is Trump's son-in-law? Is he really achieved anything because he's a clever guy? I mean, honestly, this is honest question. Did Kushner achieve any success because he is actually clever, decent human being? No, I'm never gonna believe in that shit because I have seen statements that he was making in regards to Gaza Strip. How he was seeing land but not the people there. How he was counting money while ignoring death of tens of thousands of civilians, as if it means nothing. And when, I mean, I don't know, politics is a dirty business, isn't it? But nevertheless, how can one be this polite towards this Kushner when he demonstrated already how evil he is, man? He personally demonstrated in his interviews how soulless he is. But yet again, politics is a dirty freaking business. That's why majority of people hate all these politicians, right? And don't trust them. And their diplomacy is a part of politics, right? So it is what it is, man. Yeah. Now you know that aide of Russian president thinks that Gerard Kushner might draft the key provisions of the possible peace plan for the Ukrainian conflict. It's insane, man. It's insane. RT is also reporting that US accuses EU of attack on American people after fine on X. The US has accused Brussels of an attack on Americans after the EU fined Elon Musk's social media platform X with 120 million euros or $140 million for the violating blog's content moderation rules. Okay. I don't think this is attack on American people, but this is clearly an attempt on part of European ruling class to gain little leverage over their ex, and well, they're finding X and will continue to do so until they will get keys to the back door to X, or until they will be in a position to censor, to have a say basically in censorship. And don't tell me, dear friends, that there is no censorship on X. Of course there is, man. Of course there is. There are certain opinions of certain people from certain countries that is not welcomed on X right now, as it was the case before Elon Musk brought this company. It's just censorship is a bit different. They have different approaches, different ideas being censored. But generally speaking, I don't think X become much better than it was. Maybe for Americans, conservatives, maybe, because they feel much free now. But on a scale of planet, X was a garbage and still is a garbage. Let's be real here, because of the censorship. And I start to be relatively active on X, by the way, like some time ago, and I know what am I talking about. How come that I have like 3,000 plus subscribers, and I may post something and it has like only 50 views? I mean, seriously, 3,000 subscribers and 50 views? Then unsubscribe those people. If those people that are subscribed to my page because they want to see some news from me, if you're never going to show them anything that I post, then unsubscribe them, right? Anyways, fuck it, man. I don't give a damn about Exeter. I don't give a damn about this internal friction between American ruling class and European ruling class. But as a fact, I'm reporting that X was fined 120 million euros, and okay, who cares, man? Who cares? If X was respected, really, good platform without censorship, okay, but it's not. Yet again, Americans might have different opinion, or conservatives in the West, in the Western countries, in US, in UK, right? But I did not see no change in X personally. It was a garbage then, before Musk brought it, and it is garbage now. I mean, facts, right? Just because Americans find it more or less aggressive does not mean that they're on a global scale, and this platform is on a global scale, right? Does not mean that on a global scale platform become better. It did not. It's different. It's different, but still garbage. And of course, there is also headlines, lots of headlines, by the way, about a recent visit of Russian president to India. Lots of headlines. And you can see right now, for example, just TASS News Agency's page on Putin's visit, how many headlines are there? I mean, million headlines, all comments. This one said this and that, and how successful this was, and everything, but literally no information about any agreements, any contracts, nothing, by the way. I was looking for, maybe today, later on, some information will be published, or tomorrow, or day after, but I got feeling, and I did some research, by the way. I was looking for some information about some contracts that were signed, about something, right? And I didn't find much news. And I have two explanations. Although both sides, Moscow and New Delhi, are calling this visit of Russian president very successful, highly successful, right? And I have two explanations why there is not that many informations on the internet about what actually was agreed, what contracts was signed, if any. Because first explanation is that despite warm welcome and good relationships between two countries, generally speaking, there was no contract signed, actually. That's one explanation, one reason why there is a little to known information about specifics, right? And the other explanation is that contracts were signed, but Moscow and New Delhi decided to keep this information private, to make sure that no third party is gonna disrupt the process. Both scenarios can be true, isn't it? Both scenarios can be true. Or maybe it's just weekend, by the way. Maybe it's just because it's weekend. Their media just does not care to report much about some agreements between Russia and India, let's say about building or further increasing cooperation in the nuclear energy field, or in military industrial complex, or this or that. So therefore, let's see, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, we will have some specifics in terms of what contracts actually was signed during this visit, if any. I would like to know, by the way, because I was a bit optimistic, relatively optimistic, that agreements will be signed about Su-57 fighter jets, and I just see no freaking information on that. And there is so many other topics, isn't it, that earlier was discussed, but we don't have no specifics. Anyways, a few more news, dear friends, and I will end the news segment on that. RIA Novosti is reporting that China has overtaken Germany to become Russia's largest beer exporter. So some let's say cool news, by the way, because generally speaking, all their news, or most of the news, is something negative, right? About something negative happening in this world. So when I see this report, I was thinking I'm gonna share this information with the community. So China, by the way, somehow, I don't know how, I don't know even a single Chinese beer brand, man. Honestly, I don't know even a single Chinese beer brand. I don't even know China was big in beer, man. Since when? I don't know. So yes, China somehow has overtook Germany and even Czech Republic. Both countries are big in beer, isn't it? So let me give you some specifics. China has surpassed Germany to become Russia's largest beer exporter in the first 9 months of this year, increasing shipments by 1.5 times compared to the same period last year, according to RIA Novosti's calculations based on data from the UN Comtrade platform and national customs agencies. Due to sharp decline, Germany only came in third behind China and another major European beer power, the Czech Republic, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Do you know any Chinese beer, by the way? I mean, seriously, I don't. I'm gonna, you know what? Next weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend, I'm gonna specifically look for some Chinese beer. I'm gonna buy just one can or bottle, whatever, and I'm gonna try, man. I don't know what Chinese beer is, but yes, they are number one exporters of beer now here in Russia, and that's quite surprising to me personally. And also, I have a question: why on earth we still are importing beer from Germany or the Czech Republic, from these two hostile states, hostile towards Russia states? Don't we can produce enough beer for ourselves? I mean, honestly, man, why we are exporting beer from Germany and Czech Republic? Why we are still doing business with these hostile countries, man? On any scale, I don't know. I don't know. If government, I mean, I can understand if we are doing business with Hungary, because Hungary is not hostile. Hungary's leadership is trying hard to demonstrate that, you know what, guys, we might be part of West. We are part of West, NATO, EU, all this shit, right? But we don't want to be your enemy, so don't see us as such, right? We want normal relationships. So I appreciate that approach, right? So if Russian company is doing business with Hungary, great, great. Let's do business. Let's benefit both our countries. But Germany and Czech Republic, countries that led by extreme freaking Russophobes, and we are doing business like it's nothing. Okay, man. Where is the morality, for God's sake, in this world? Principles, morality, man. Is this in these times? Principles of morality even means anything anymore? From businesses, for example, and also for state institutions, by the way. If a government here in Russia says we are no longer doing any freaking business with hostile countries, any whatsoever. I mean, we can clearly live without German beer, isn't it? I mean, honestly, man, Germans do have a good beer, no questions. Czechs know how to do good beer, no questions, man. But their governments are hostile, their countries are hostile. So therefore, with all due respect to people, but we cannot do business with these countries because those businesses gonna pay taxes, and then German government gonna send this money, gonna allocate this money to further prolong this war and kill more Russian citizens, right? So there is a moral dilemma there, isn't it? Or maybe I'm freaking crazy, man. I don't know. I never understood why we are doing business with her. If it was some critical stuff, if it was some unique medicine, by the way, that are only produced in Germany or in Czech Republic or any other hostile state, if it's about life saving, right? No questions, man. If they want something from Russia, should be given to them to save the lives. And if Russia wants something from them, even though we are engaged in this proxy war that West launched against us, nevertheless, if they want something from us, we should give. And if they want something, if they have something that we need to save the lives, okay, let's work on that. I can see this is acceptable because it's about saving lives. But freaking beer, man, freaking cars and their TVs or some freaking phones and that kind of shit. I mean, I have a Chinese phone, by the way. This is not an iPhone, not a freaking Samsung. It's just a Chinese phone of, I don't even know for how long I have this phone, right? It doesn't work. It works, man, right? So if we cannot produce freaking phones or anything else here in Russia, then let's buy it from friendly states at least, not from fucking hostiles, man. Does it make sense? To me, it does, but yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's the news, by the way. China overtook Germany and the Czech Republic in terms of exporting beer to Russia, which is crazy if you think about it. I don't know freaking single brand of beer from China. Anyways. And I'm gonna end this live stream, by the way, on this freaking crazy news that Trump was given some fake peace prize, by the way, that was invented especially for him by FIFA officials. FIFA is, of course, football international federation. And you know, they're gonna be world championship, isn't it, in the US? I don't know why world championship gonna be in the US. They don't even play football much. They don't love football much. I mean, majority in US, they even they don't even call it football, by the way. They call it a soccer or something, right? So why US? That's one question. And secondly, what the hell is wrong with these creatures that being put in position of decision making in the Western world or by Western world, man? FIFA invented a freaking peace prize and they give it to Trump. First ever FIFA peace prize. So he did not get Nobel Peace Prize, but he succeeded in a football peace prize. And don't tell me world is not being turned into a freaking bloody circus, man. Because it is a bloody circus. It is. World stage is packed with the freaking fools, man, and the disgrace of humanity. I mean, this is disgrace, isn't it? Let's have a real talk, man. This is disgrace, man. This is a disgrace of football, disgrace of FIFA that already been disgraced a million times. It's just nonsense, man. And there is so much nonsense nowadays, right? Happening on daily basis. So much freaking stuff that was presented as a normal. You know, this is new normal, by the way. This insanity is kind of new normal. Crazy, isn't it? So yes, Trump has now FIFA peace prize, and he was very honored. Yeah, very honored to have this prize. It's a freaking joke, man. Freaking joke. And that's about it. That's about it for today's news segment. Let me check, dear friends. So I checked Rumble, no super chat there. And let me check boosting. Nothing on boosty, so yeah, that's how it is. This is it, dear friends. This is it then for today's news segment. Hopefully you did find this show informative, entertaining, interesting, and so yes, in case you want to support my work, under this video in description box, there is links to PayPal, Boosty, Patreon, and so yes, have a wonderful weekend, and take care. Bye for now.